Fear Not, Episode 99. Hi, I'm Billy Atwell, and I believe that consistently facing your fears is the only way to realize your truest self and to make those confident choices that will help you to obtain your deepest held hopes and dreams. I have faith that this podcast series will show you that you are not alone, that it will strengthen you and give you courage to face your fears, and that it will help you to permanently cross over into a life of living beyond your fears. Join me on this journey as we listen and learn from others as they share their experiences in facing and overcoming their own fears. The legendary Patty Palmer spent over 3 decades developing the Palmer Plush tissue fitting method. This technique allows you to create clothes that fit your body rather than rigidly adhering to the pattern's contours. Palmer Plush fitting workshops and online courses are designed for both the beginner and advanced sewist and provides a polished piece that looks custom-made. For more information on the available Palmer Plush fitting workshops and online courses, visit palmerplush.com. palmerplush.com. Hello everybody. Today you and I are going to be joined by tdekruyter. Hey Todd, how are you today?
Good. Thanks for being on the show, Billy. Glad to be here.
Are you ready to fear not today?
I am ready to fear not indeed.
Combining an entrepreneurial spirit with a missional focus, Todd uses his financial and philanthropic expertise to help families and individuals stay true to what matters as they navigate professional and financial success. Todd has 8 years of experience as an executive at Larson Financial, where he also chaired Larson Financial's Advisor Advancement Committee and served on the Larson Financial Foundation Board. In addition to corporate experience, Todd founded 2 businesses, DK Financial Group and Reclamation Builders. As the CEO of DK Financial Group, Todd focuses on businesses and cultural development and transitions and on organizations and individuals in the financial services industry and the generosity movement. He also runs Reclamation Builders, which reclaims homes by purchasing, renovating, and reselling them. Todd, can you take a few moments to fill in the gaps and maybe also give us a brief glimpse of your personal life?
Yeah, so all of that kind of sounds funny hearing in retrospect because all of it just kind of happened by happenstance and knowing a friend and just seeing a need and meeting a need. So it seems kind of funky to hear my resume in that format. But yeah, fun stuff. It's always a journey and an adventure on the next side. I live in the north side of Indianapolis with my wife, and we've got 4 little kiddos from 6th grade down to 5 years old. So kindergarten next year, but fun stuff.
Todd, would you also share with us today one of the biggest fears that you've had to face?
Yeah, so when I got that question, it took me a while to think through it. Just going, all right, what's my biggest fears? Because I really like that question and the focus of what you're doing in the podcast. Honestly, I think my biggest fear is wanting to be significant at things that matter and not wanting to be significant of stuff that just didn't count.
So, how do you deal with that?
On a regular basis for me, I've got to come back to the things that matter. And so we went through on our family basis and came up with kind of our 3 core values and the thing that matters most. And we tend to be real Bible people. And so we go back to that on a regular basis and attend church on a pretty consistent basis. But honestly, I think one of the biggest things for me to stay true to what matters most has been my accountability partners. So I've got 2 guys we meet with on a monthly basis for phone calls. We meet face-to-face once a year. And honestly, we text each other, if not daily, every other day on just, the things that are issues that are coming up on how we doing on our workout goals, that kind of stuff, of just reminding me and staying fresh on those things that are important.
Todd, you must have come across some pretty great resources on your journey and how you deal with fear. Would you mind sharing some of those with us today?
Yeah, so the Bible obviously is one I use on a more regular basis. And then a lot of Christian literature like C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity has been really helpful and formative in my life. But honestly, I'm a big podcaster. I love grabbing a bunch of different content that's out there from a business development standpoint, from a personal standpoint. There's loads of great content out there on a regular basis that I try to kind of feed my mind with. I'm one of those guys on a road trip. If I'm going, 3-4 hours or something, I love my windshield time and just dwelling on some really good sermons from preachers I love, on podcasts I enjoy, on books on tape. And honestly, I've spent the last, I think, 3, maybe even 4 years now. I had a business coach who really challenged me to make sure I'm feeding my mind. And so I spent the last, I think it's 3.5 years, where every Thursday morning, kind of from probably about 9:30 to noon, if not 8 o'clock, 8:30 to noon, reading. And so I really love to read, and I could give you loads of stuff that way, depending on the topic and whatnot. But I really love marinating my mind on great material.
Yeah, maybe you can throw a few of those titles at.
Yeah, from a fear standpoint, honestly, one of the best ones I've seen is a book called Voices of the Heart. A guy named Chip Dodd. And being a guy, I'm not great with emotions. I grew up. I have 3 older brothers, and we'd wrestle it out and hit each other as opposed to sit around and talk about how we felt. And so fear was not something I really looked forward to. But Chip Dodd's book, The Voice of the Heart, was really helpful to reframe fear. And also, fear, from what I look at it, fear is really helpful to a certain extent because it points out my limits. Right? If I'm not afraid of anything, like imagine like a 2-year-old toddler walking around the edge of the Grand Canyon or a big cliff. Fear is a really healthy thing for that kid to point out the limitations, which keeps them parameters that are safe. And the same way for me, when I approach things that are fear, that can be a good thing. Fear also helps point out identity, which can be a good thing. But at the same time, I'm one of those guys that I like risk. I'm an entrepreneur. I like starting things. And so the unknown, to me, is less about fear. It's more about the excitement and the thrill of it. I think those kind of go back and forth, and you need sometimes fear to creep in to kind of keep you back in safe and in areas of more safety. But then other times risk can kind of propel you on to the big adventure. And so for me, when I find myself getting those moments of fear, oftentimes even big movies too. I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. I love those kind of big epic movies to watch and kind of get my heart inspired and be like, well, if Frodo can do it, then then I can do it too. So it's been all of those kind of things kind of help me get over the fears and help me overcome the things there. But Voice of the Heart has probably been one of the most important resources relating to fear for my life.
Are you ready for the speed round?
Game on. Let's do it.
What person, whether they be fiction or real, has made the most impact on your life?
Well, hands down, my dad and my parents, just from a grounding me in my faith standpoint, from a how to be successful, but also not leave behind the things that are important. They've been huge. Yeah, definitely my dad.
If you could instantly change one thing in the world, what would you change?
I would love to see the world more generous. Generosity is a big heartbeat of mine, and especially with seeing in financial planning practice, the happiest people I know are by far the most generous ones. And I would love to see us a little bit less focused on self and a whole lot more focused on others through generosity.
What's your biggest weakness?
Ooh, how much time do you have? I struggle with arrogance and talking too much and thinking too highly of myself. I love getting the big picture done, but then I lose focus as the project gets along and don't like finishing things. I've got a real bent towards taking on a project that's too big and not knowing the size of my abilities and pushing too fast and too hard. I love doing several things at once, but the weakness of that is there's not a lot of focus there. So I was sitting down recently with a very wealthy fellow, and he said, all right, Todd, I'm looking to hire you for this position. I'd love to have you come on here, and I see you're kind of a serial entrepreneur and keep starting things. What's going to be different? Because I think there can be sustained impact by focusing on one thing really well. I'm like, that's a great question, because you're right. I don't do that well. So that's definitely a weakness of mine is doing too many things at once and not being great at any of them.
What's your biggest strength?
It's the flip side of that coin. I think they're related. I don't know if I'm stupid enough or gallsy enough or simplistic enough to try things that I'm going, well, why not? My brother recently came in for spring break, and he goes, Todd, I got something that's really creative, but a little bit risky. What if we melted down aluminum and made things out of it? I'm like, what? And so we ended up having fun melting aluminum to make, and all of our creations turned out terrible, but it's a good time just having fun. So just ability to take a risk and get past the oh crap point into a point where we're actually doing something. I'm definitely an action oriented kind of guy. I like vision and ideas, but it's got to lead me to do something.
If you could only have one book to read, what book would you choose?
Well, the Bible's too easy, but definitely would be there. Some of the ones that would be shortly under that. One of my favorite authors, a guy named Randy Elkhorn. He's written a book called Money, Possessions, and Eternity, which is one of my hands down favorites. And then second to that by Randy Elkhorn as well is Law of Rewards. So those would be pretty high on the list. I know I'm cheating by listing more than one, but Boundaries is a book by Henry Cloud and John Townsend. They wrote kind of just on, it's helpful for personal boundaries as well as some parenting stuff. That's one that's extremely highlighted. And then probably Mere Christianity. I think if I have to give you one that's not the Bible, that'd probably be the one I'd land on by C.S. Lewis.
Do you have a favorite sound?
Probably my children's voices when they run to greet me when I come home. It's just that moment where, and I know I'm engaging my kids and trying to be the dad that I want to be when they come running at the door, as opposed to just like, whatever. We're glad you're here, Dad.
Todd, if someone would like to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so I've got a website, navigatinglifebook.com, because I just wrote a book, Navigating Life with More Than Enough. That's kind of one of the ways there. And I'm on Twitter, although I'm not hugely on Twitter, and my last name's hard to spell, but it's tdekruyter. At tdekruyter, which I'm not a ton there, but navigatinglifebook.com is probably the best way.
And what parting advice would you like to leave with us today?
In regards to fears, I think when you look back on life, you're not going to be regretting the things that you did and failed. I think we're going to be regretting the things that we wish we would have done and didn't have the courage to do. And if you're sitting in that life, and let's fast forward however many years we're sitting at and going, all right, I've been here 30 years. I've been here how long? I've been here 70 years. I've been here 90 years, however long we get. If we're sitting back at that moment right before we pass into the next life, I don't think we're going to be going, man, I wish I would have done more work. I don't think we're going to be going, man, I wish I would have bought more. I think we're going to be looking at that and going, all right, these are the things that I wish I would have tried. And I'd love to not have those be huge gaps for my life. I'd rather be sitting with you in that moment, or maybe even when we've been there 10,000 years, like the hymn Amazing Grace says, been sitting there going, wow, that was a fun ride. What a fun adventure. I'm so glad I did X, Y, Z. So whether it's, going and writing that book, whether it's doing the next big thing that you want to do, get that proposal, whether it's having a kid, whether it's launching a business, whatever the thing that you're kind of going, man, I'd love to do that. Why not today take a next step toward that and do something where you can be significant where it matters most?
Well put, and thank you. And Todd, I want to thank you too for coming on the show today and sharing your story and your time and your resources, your wisdom. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Billy. Great to be a guest. Glad to be here, and thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me today. And remember, you cannot achieve everything, but you do have the God-given ability to achieve anything. So stay focused, out of fear, and keep on keeping on. Until next time, be well and peaceful. For more information on today's episode and guest, or for resources that will assist you in overcoming your fears, visit livingbeyondyourfears.com. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, where 3 times a week we move to a life beyond our fears.